Hello. Welcome. Please enjoy your stay. I still remember the night I discovered that sleep could be holy. It had been a long day, one of those days when even the smallest worries seemed louder than usual. The phone had rung with news I didn't want to hear, the bills seemed to glare at me from the kitchen table, and my thoughts wandered down dark hallways of what if and what now. By the time the sun set, my body felt heavy, but my mind refused to slow down. I made a cup of chamomile tea, hoping the warmth would calm me, and sat in my chair by the window. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, with only the sound of crickets and the occasional whisper of wind moving through the trees. I reached for my Bible, worn and familiar, its pages bending easily to the Psalms as if they knew where I needed to go. My eyes fell on Psalm 4, verse 8. In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. I read it once, twice, then a third time, letting each word sink in. There was something about the way the verse moved, beginning with peace, ending with safety, wrapping my fears in a promise I could hold on to. I closed my eyes and imagined the Lord Himself standing watch over my bed, not sleeping, not blinking, His presence a shield between me and the night. That image stayed with me as I set the Bible aside, blew out the candle, and lay down. I didn't fight for sleep that night. I simply rested, as if God had placed His hand on my shoulder and whispered, "It's safe now, my child." The world around us talks about sleep in physical terms. How many hours we get, the quality of our mattress, the temperature of the room. Those things matter, of course, but Scripture goes deeper. In the Bible, rest is not just the body's pause, it is the soul's surrender. It is the act of placing our most unguarded hours into the hands of the one who never slumbers. The Psalms reveal a truth our modern world has nearly forgotten: that real rest is a spiritual gift, and to receive it is to say to God, "I trust you more than my own strength." There's another psalm that deepens this picture. Psalm 121 verses 3 and 4 says, "He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep." I can't read that without smiling a little. God does not nap. He does not doze off. He does not get distracted. While the world turns and we lay vulnerable in the dark, He remains steady, alert, and attentive. It means that every hour I sleep is an hour watched over by the Creator Himself. This is not just poetic comfort. It is a shield against the fears that keep so many of us awake at night. And let's be honest, the nights can be the hardest part of the day, especially as we grow older. The house grows still, the ticking clock sounds louder, and the mind begins to wander where it shouldn't. We replay conversations we wish had gone differently, we dwell on what-ifs, and we feel the weight of aches and ailments that seem louder in the dark. For some, sleep becomes something to dread, an elusive visitor that only comes when exhaustion finally wins. But here's what the Psalms whisper to us. God's rest is not fragile. It doesn't depend on perfect circumstances, a quiet mind, or even our ability to stop thinking. His rest is strong enough to hold us in our weakest moments. When I think of sacred sleep, I think of it as a shelter, not made of wood or stone, but of God's presence. Imagine yourself lying down at night, and instead of worrying about what the morning might bring, you picture a fortress around you. The walls are made of His promises. The roof is His faithfulness. And the air you breathe is filled with His peace. That's the vision the Psalms give us. A bed inside a sanctuary guarded by the Almighty. Tonight, I want to invite you to see your own sleep differently. Instead of treating it as a break between 2 days, see it as a sacred appointment with God. It's the time when He renews your body, quiets your spirit, and speaks to your heart in ways you might not hear in the noise of daylight. Even if you wake in the night, you can return to His Word, whisper a verse, and let your soul rest even before your body does. Psalm 4 verse 8 and Psalm 121 together form a kind of lullaby for the believer. One verse reminds you of your peace and safety. The other reassures you that God is always awake on your behalf. And when those two truths take root in your heart, something changes. You no longer go to bed trying to make yourself sleep. You simply lie down and let the Lord take the night shift. In the next part of our time together, we'll walk more deeply into the Psalms, exploring how they speak of rest not only as a gift for the weary, but as a rhythm designed by God Himself. We'll see how Psalm 91 paints rest as protection under His wings, how Psalm 23 shows it as renewal for the soul, and how Psalm 127 reminds us that sleep is an expression of His love. But before we go there, take a moment tonight to look at your own bed, your own quiet corner, and see it for what it can be, a sacred place where heaven meets earth and where the heart learns again to trust its Maker. So stay with me, and if this speaks to your heart, I'd love for you to like this video, share it with someone who needs peace tonight, and subscribe so we can keep walking this journey of faith together.
When we step further into the Psalms, we find that sleep is more than just a moment of quiet. It is a spiritual layer woven into the fabric of God's care. The first layer is protection, and no psalm paints it more vividly than Psalm 91, verses 1 through 2. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. The imagery here is striking. Imagine the Almighty as a great fortress, towering and unshakable, with walls so thick that nothing can break through. At night, when shadows lengthen and the world grows quiet, the psalmist says we are not left out in the open. We are invited into that fortress, into the cool, safe shadow of God's presence. It is there, in that shelter, that rest becomes possible even when storms rage outside. I remember visiting a friend's farmhouse many years ago during a summer thunderstorm. The wind howled, the rain beat hard against the windows, and the trees outside bent under the weight of the storm. Yet inside, the walls held firm, and the light from the fireplace cast a warm glow over everything. We sipped tea, spoke softly, and felt the security of being sheltered. That's the picture Psalm 91 offers. A God so present and so strong that no matter what happens outside, His peace surrounds us inside. The second layer is renewal, and here Psalm 23 speaks with gentle authority. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. David knew what it meant to rest under the watch of a good shepherd. Sheep do not lie down easily. They are easily startled. They wander. They stand in uncertainty. It is only when they trust the shepherd completely that they will rest. In the same way, our bodies and minds resist rest when fear lingers. But when the shepherd leads us to still waters, the soul itself is renewed. One evening, I tried to picture Psalm 23 before sleep. I closed my eyes and imagined soft grass under my feet, a slow-moving stream nearby, the air warm but gentle. I imagined the Lord walking ahead, not hurried, not distracted, but fully attentive. In that vision, my thoughts began to slow, My breathing deepened, and my heart settled. That's the renewing work God offers when we let Him lead us into rest. It's not just about ending the day, it's about beginning to heal from it. The third layer is love. And this is where Psalm 127 verse 2 gives us a tender reminder. He grants sleep to those He loves. How often we think of sleep as something we must earn, after finishing our tasks, after proving ourselves productive, after doing enough. But here the psalm turns that thinking on its head. Sleep is not a reward for effort, it is a gift given in love. If you've ever watched a parent tuck a child into bed, you've seen this truth in motion. The child doesn't have to do anything to earn the blanket pulled up to their chin or the soft kiss on their forehead. The love of the parent provides the rest. And in the same way, God's love for us is not dependent on our performance. We can rest not because we did everything perfectly, but because He loves us perfectly. These layers, protection, renewal, and love, form a complete picture of sacred sleep. They are not just poetic ideas, they are practical truths that can change how we approach our nights. For instance, we can physically prepare our spaces as reminders of these layers. Let your bedroom be a place of peace, free from the clutter and noise of the day, as a reflection of Psalm 91's fortress. Keep a verse by your bedside, perhaps Psalm 23, so that its words lead you to quiet waters before you close your eyes. And when you lay down, whisper Psalm 127 verse 2, letting it remind you that this moment of rest is God's gift to you simply because He loves you. I have spoken with many who tell me they can't fall asleep because their mind races with tomorrow's demands. I understand that feeling, the way responsibilities compile high in the mind like an unending staircase. But when we place the night back into God's hands, something happens. The list can wait. The fears shrink. The night becomes a place of meeting rather than a battlefield. Perhaps tonight you can try this. Before turning out the light, take a slow breath and thank God for 3 things that happened in your day, no matter how small. Let gratitude be your first step into the fortress, your walk to the green pastures, your place under the warm blanket of His love. Because sleep, when understood through the Psalms, is not just a biological pause, it is an act of worship. It says to God, I am not in control, and I'm glad I'm not because You are. And in that surrender, in that trust, sacred sleep becomes not only possible, but beautiful. In the next part of our time together, we will see how this kind of rest is more than just temporary relief. It is a foretaste of something eternal, a peace that will one day be unbroken, a Sabbath without end. And we'll hear the story of someone who found that peace, not through perfect nights, but through learning to place their heart in God's keeping even when the world seemed uncertain. When we think about rest in God's design, it's easy to picture only the here and now, the quiet of a peaceful night, the calm that settles over us when we pray before bed. But the Psalms whisper of something deeper, something that reaches beyond the edges of time. They teach us that every night we lay our head down in God's care, we are tasting a shadow of the rest we will one day know in His eternal presence. Psalm 62 verses 1 and 2 says, Truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from Him. Truly He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. This is not just about sleep after a long day. It is about a rest that cannot be stolen, even by life's harshest storms. When we enter that kind of rest, we touch the edges of eternity. we begin to understand that the peace God gives at night is not temporary comfort, but a down payment on the everlasting peace He has prepared for us. I think of my friend Margaret, who lived well into her 90s. In her last years, her health was fragile, and sleep often came in short, broken hours. But she had a practice that moved me deeply. Whenever she woke in the night, she would whisper Psalm 91:2 into the darkness. "He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust." She told me that sometimes she would fall back asleep in seconds, other times she would stay awake for a while. But either way, her heart stayed in a place of peace. She said, "Even when I'm awake, I can rest in Him." Margaret understood something profound. Sacred sleep is not just the absence of wakefulness, it's the presence of God in the stillness. In the same way, our nightly rest can become a gentle rehearsal for the eternal rest to come. Think of how a loving parent might pull the blanket over their child at night, knowing morning will come soon. In heaven, that morning will never end. The peace we feel now, in moments when God stills our fears and quiets our thoughts, is just a glimpse of the peace that will one day be unbroken. This eternal perspective changes how we view our nights. Suddenly, the moments we can't sleep become less of an enemy and more of an invitation. If you find yourself awake at midnight, you can still be at rest, not because the world is perfect, but because God is. You can let the Psalms be your prayer, your lullaby, your anchor in the quiet hours. And in doing so, you are practicing the same trust that will one day carry you into the everlasting Sabbath of God's presence. So tonight, whether your sleep comes quickly or slowly, see it as an act of faith. When you close your eyes, picture yourself placing every care into His hands. Imagine His presence as the softest light filling the room, drawing a curtain of peace between you and the world's noise. Know that the same God who gave you breath gives you this moment to rest, and that every breath you take in the stillness is known and treasured by Him. If these words have spoken to you, I'd love for you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and tell me in the comments your favorite psalm about rest. You never know whose heart might be encouraged by your words. And as we close, let me leave you with this picture. The night is fallen, the stars stand watch, and the world has grown quiet. God's hand draws a soft curtain over the sky, and in that holy stillness, He tucks His children into peace. This is His gift, His design, His love. So sleep well tonight, not because all is well in the world, but because all is well in His presence.